Hello, it's Mrs. Glasson. Welcome to Wonderful Words beginning with A. Incidentally, in my previous video, Introduction to Wonderful Words Defined, I used certain words as part of my vernacular, like archaic and vernacular. And it suddenly occurred to me that those are words that are part of the vocabulary that I teach in the free lessons. So if you haven't taken the free lessons, then you really must do so. You don't need to be an 11 plus student to take my free lessons and to learn fantastic vocabulary from them. So after you've finished watching this video, go to www.mrsglasson.com and enroll in the free lessons. They're fantastic. They'll teach you about creative writing, comprehension, grammar, and of course they will teach you oodles of fantastic, fabulous vocabulary. Okay, so what about those wonderful words beginning with A? Let me begin by saying that I'm feeling very amicable, very amiable, and that it was with great alacrity, students, that I skipped in here and sat down because I was really looking forward to talking to you about fantastic words beginning with A. Alacrity, brisk and cheerful readiness. So it was with great alacrity that I sat down to talk to you about these wonderful words. I was alacritous, and it is alacritously that I reach for my fantastic volumes of works by Jonathan Swift and Samuel Johnson. There they are, alacrity, alacritous. And as always, it is my hope that my teaching helps to ameliorate your lexis, that it helps to augment your knowledge. What do I mean? Ameliorates. So there we have the word ameliorates, meaning improves or enhances. So I'm hoping that my Wonderful Words videos help to ameliorate your vocabulary. And in my usual tangential style, and you will know all about me going off on tangents from the last video, I have thought of an antonym, so worsens. So it's our hope that the weather ameliorates in April. Unfortunately, it tends to worsen around, well, one would hope, September. Similarly, reading a lot augments your knowledge. Antonyms: depletes, decreases, diminishes. Great example of alliteration, and tricolon there. Tricolon, my students will know from the literary terminology that I have taught them. I think primary school teachers call that the rule of three. Whatever it's called, it's definitely tricolon. Brilliant. And on the subject of my teaching of literary terminology, Lesson 5 is the one, foundation course students and revision course students. That's the one on literary terms, when I teach you fantastic literary terms that are essential to your comprehension and to your creative writing. So terms like assonance, sibilance, the different forms of literary imagery, olfactory imagery, auditory imagery, chromomorphism, zoomorphism, and I am told that that lesson will change the way you write forever. So do go and take a look at www.mrsglasson.com. Now, while I was teaching a passage from Jane Eyre, actually, to my live online students, we do a fantastic creative writing task that's based on an extract from Jane Eyre, which is up there, which was one of my mother's favourite novels. It suddenly struck me the relationship between the words beginning with A, coincidentally, abhor and adore. They sound so similar, and yet they are so antithetical in their meanings. There they are, abhor meaning to hate or dislike, and adore meaning to love and like. They sound so similar, and yet they are so different. Their meanings are so antithetical, so contrasting or directly opposed. Abhor and adore. And students, time for some grammar now. I can't believe that I've been speaking for so long and not taught you any grammar. I abhor spiders. I adore dogs. Abhor and adore in those sentences, parts of speech. Verbs, of course. Subject pronoun, verb, object. Subject, verb, object. But what about abhor when it's a noun? And what kind of noun is it? But of course, abhorrence, hatred, an abstract noun. Don't want to get too bogged down in hatred, so here is a lovely A word to lighten our mood. Amity, friendship, also an abstract noun. So when I got my 2 cats, I hoped that there would be a growing amity between them. But alas, students, I was wrong. All there was enmity. They absolutely abhorred each other, although both were united in their dislike of the dog. And so some adjectives. My cats were not particularly amicable or amiable. However, my dog is always amicable and amiable. It doesn't matter how much abhorrence and enmity the cats show him, he's always friendly. In Introduction to Wonderful Words Defined, that video, when I was talking about elevate, that phrase, elevate your Lexis, I did say that it sounded a little bit like alleviate or assuage. Alleviate and assuage, meaning reduce or ease. So, for example, Dante, the dog, has recently had some surgery on his leg, and the vet gave him quite a few different tablets to help to alleviate or assuage his pain. Now, be careful of the way that you pronounce assuage, because I must admit, students, I mispronounced it for years. And there's a reason why I sometimes mispronounce words, because as a child, I didn't really speak English very well until I came to this country and I was about 4 or 5. And so I learned a lot of my words from wonderful books and from reading. And so I never really knew how words were pronounced. And also, my dad didn't help. Most Sutton Grammar boys will know every now and then I would talk to them about a word that I had mispronounced. I was copying my dad's pronunciation. The most memorable one being jeopardy for jeopardy. Whoops. So this one I mispronounced for many years. I can't even remember what I used to say. I think assuage probably. But top tip though, this is what I often do.
Assuage.
And if I can do that, then you definitely can. So don't forget, be curious, be a proactive learner. Look up any words that you don't know, write them down. Have you been writing down the words that I've taught you today? I hope so. And it doesn't matter if you haven't, because that's part of the joy of this way of teaching and learning. You can now go back and maybe you can write them down. And if you did write them down, they will now be recontextualized for you. You could even go right back to the first video and you can think about the words that you have since learnt, like vernacular and all the other words that I taught you in the second video, Introduction to Wonderful Words Defined. And so I hope that you have pushed that pink subscribe button and that you will be tuning in again for wonderful words beginning with B, because this is how you will, can you join in? Elevate your lexis, make your diction more dexterous, and make your English exemplary. Thank you very much, students. I look forward to seeing you again.